So today we'll be taking a look at Roman Reigns' story and how it could be leading towards a big SmackDown return. We'll also have a look at what's going on with Cesaro and an update to Naomi's storyline. Let's start things off with everything Roman Reigns related. Roman obviously missed his first SmackDown episode in a couple of months last week, and his absence didn't go unnoticed at all. He went trending all over social media last week with his absence, and Roman did address the situation. He said that he heard all the cries from the WWE fans about where their tribal chief was at. Although everyone's guess was that Roman was probably hurt from Brock's brutal attack, Roman didn't exactly confirm that theory and idea. Instead, what he did say was that it was a vacation week and he was on a private island with his wife. In reality, Roman was backstage at SmackDown last week, even came out for a dark match after SmackDown. But maybe in the storyline world, he was really at this island or just didn't want to admit that Brock roughed him up a bit. Roman then switched his attention to what happened last week with Jimmy and Jay. With Roman being gone for the week, Jimmy and Jay were basically splitting the load as being the head of the family for the night. But obviously they lost to Kofi Kingston and King Woods, which wasn't the best look for the family. Everyone knows that WWE may not take win-loss records that seriously, but Roman Reigns, the character, is very obsessed with the idea of winning and can't stand losing at all. Even if it's a throwaway SmackDown match, losing is just not an option for Roman. So when he has to return to SmackDown and hear about the embarrassment of Jimmy and Jay losing in the main event of SmackDown, it's not going to be pleasant for him to hear about it at all. He questions them on who was pinned. It was Jimmy, but the brothers both point at each other, trying to deflect the blame. That was a nice moment and small detail. The way Jimmy and Jay won't own up to the loss perfectly displays that fear that they have in Roman. It's not like Jimmy said right off the bat that it was him. He didn't do that at all. He hesitated because he was terrified of Roman. So it's just little things like that which really adds so much to the story. This leads to Kofi and Woods coming out and setting up a match where the loser between Jimmy and Jay would have to bend the knee to the winning side. Roman is shown backstage with the Bloodline and talks about how SmackDown sucked as much as Raw does when he took 1 week off. Roman has a talk with Jimmy about fixing this mistake, and Jay also chimes in as Roman asks some questions. So this moment was also important because it looks like Jay is still the right-hand man to Roman. Jay didn't get pinned last week. He's been alongside Roman much longer than Jimmy has. So it does look like Roman prefers Jay over Jimmy. And it definitely seems like Jay would be ranked number 2 in the Bloodline right now since he's on much better terms with Roman than Jay is. So maybe this all means nothing, or maybe it does mean something and will come up again down the line. Maybe where Jimmy becomes the one that slowly wants to break away from Roman again. All of that was followed up with Jimmy losing once again and nearly bending the knee to King Woods. But Roman saves the day and takes the New Day out. Roman warns Kofi and Woods about what would happen to them if they showed up next week. And that moment in line right there may turn out to be a very important and lead to a major SmackDown return. This return being WWE Champion Big E. The Bloodline and the New Day ran into some issues back in September for a couple of weeks. It was a short program and didn't go much of anywhere, but it looks like this week's SmackDown had some perfectly planted seeds to reignite that feud and reintroduce Big E to SmackDown. Big E vs. Roman Reigns will be happening at Survivor Series. We know that for a fact, but it looks like this whole beatdown of Kofi and Woods from Roman is what's going to add some extra narrative to the story and the main event of Survivor Series. So Roman Reigns vs. the New Day isn't just plain filler. It is significant and will add depth to Roman vs. Big E. Big E will start to appear on SmackDown to avenge his fellow New Day members, and Roman will obviously be trying to prove once again that he is more superior than Raw World Champion. So it does seem like a good setup to a story. Both world champions have their own narratives and motives, so it does seem to set up a good story. Both world champions have their own narratives and motives for what they're fighting for, and that'll lead us to Survivor Series. As far as the winner of that match between E and Roman, it's a tough call. Roman is obviously undefeated, dating back to his 2020 return. But Big E is a fresh champion and can't afford a loss either. The safe bet is that Roman goes all out to cheat and pick up this win over Big E, thanks to the help from his cousins. But we'll continue to follow this story and see how it plays out. Naomi and Sonya Deville's story continued this week with a Shayna Baszler match. Naomi was able to pick up the win over Shayna and started celebrating the win, but Sonya comes out and says that there should have been a rope break towards the final moments of the match, and how the fair thing to do would be to restart the match. Shayna quickly takes advantage of the restart and gets the win over Naomi. So once again, things get more and more personal here. We are seeing cheating and mistakes like this happen all the time during SmackDown matches, and no one ever comes out to say a word about it. But since this is personal, it gave Sonya reasoning to screw Naomi over, while technically hiding behind the WWE rulebook. WWE storylines tend to stop and go from time to time, but this story is continuing to be a part of SmackDown every week. So it appears that there will be a big endgame or payoff here. That endgame obviously being Naomi pinning Sonya Deville in a one-on-one match. So we'll have to wait to see when that big moment will happen. This week's SmackDown didn't appear to show good direction for Cesaro. Cesaro has spent the better part of the last decade either lost in the shuffle or thrown into random tag teams in WWE. But in mid-2021, it finally appeared that Cesaro was taking off in the singles division. He had a long feud with Seth Rollins that even resulted in his first ever singles win at WrestleMania. From there on, it was nothing but a positive direction. He entered the main event world title scene and challenged Roman Reigns for the Universal title. But ever since that feud came to an end, Cesaro hasn't returned to his usual position of being lost in the shuffle. And like we saw this week on SmackDown, he possibly could be back in another random tag team, a move that WWE has done with him a countless amount of times. There's nothing wrong with being in a tag team division, but it's about progression and moving forward. Cesaro has been in the tag team division for all these years, and instead of trending in the right direction and moving forward, WWE pulls him right back into the tag team division. That's not progression at all, that's regression. So Cesaro fans aren't happy with that move. Hopefully at least the Intercontinental title will be in Cesaro's future here. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments, don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.